Behold, we consider those blessed who remained steadfast. You have heard of the steadfastness of Job, and you have seen the purpose of the Lord, how the Lord is compassionate and merciful. James chapter 5, verse 11. The blessing James mentions in the verse is the ultimate encouragement for a believer who endures. Being blessed is not the same as being happy. Happiness comes from the state of our emotions, while being blessed is an objective state of our relationship with God. From the example of the farmer in verse 7 to the example of the prophets in verse 10, and now to the example of the steadfastness of Job. The Lord's purpose in his life and how the Lord is compassionate and merciful. We know about Job's perseverance when he lost his possessions, lost his children. He had sores all over his body. His wife was against him. But what was the real purpose of God in it? Was it to prove Satan that he was wrong about his assumption of Job? Or was it to restore twice of what Job lost if he comes clean? No, none of these reasons. Let's look at the last chapter of Job, where we have the real purpose of God in it. In chapter 42, verse 5 and 6, Job says, I had heard of you by the hearing of the ear, but now my eye sees you. Therefore I despise myself and repent in dust and ashes. Job confesses that he has finally learned his lesson about the majesty and sovereign goodness of God in suffering. We also see the restorative end of Job's story toward the end of that chapter. Job's integrity was rewarded. The good end that God brought about in Job's situation shows that the Lord is full of compassion and mercy. That's the last clause of verse 11. And of course, James does not mean that patience in suffering will always be rewarded by material prosperity, as it was in the restoration for Job. We have enough examples in the Bible to prove this to be wrong. But James encourages Christians to be faithful, patiently enduring affliction, by reminding us of the blessing that we receive for such faithfulness from our compassionate and merciful God. And yet there are times we sit and wonder why we go through what we go through. Suffering in this world is not the end of story for a Christian. Our minds cannot fully comprehend God's plans and his ways for us. It says in Isaiah 55 verse 8 and 9, For my thoughts are not your thoughts, neither are your ways my ways, declares the Lord. For as the heavens are higher than the earth, so are my ways higher than your ways, and my thoughts than your thoughts. So we choose to say like the hymn writer, Thy way not mine, O Lord, amidst our suffering. Have a blessed weekend.